back. Oh, we are back. Hey, Miss Karen, I see you, baby. Don't get to moving that old wolf pussy around here now. Got a treat for y'all today, man. We're about to get ready to get on the line with my man, Dr. J. Barnett. I'm excited to sit down with him and talk to him for a few minutes. Hope y'all are too. We're about to get ready to chime in here in a few minutes. Let y'all come on in. Watch your step. Don't step on nobody's toes. Grab me a bottle of water as well, man. Y'all come on in. All right. Let's pull my mans in real quick. Dr. J. Barnett. This dude's dope, I ain't gonna lie. There we go. Hang on, man. Let me get you out of here. Hey, turn it sideways. Turn it sideways so you can get it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, turn it sideways for me. There we go. There we go. Full screen, yeah. Big dog shit right there. There you go. You hear me? Everything good?
Okay, yeah, making sure. Okay, cool. Hold on, let me take these backpacks down.
Go ahead. Go ahead, man. We live already. They don't see you yet. I ain't put you on the screen, but we live. They can hear you. There we go. All right, man. Here we go. My mans, Dr. J.
Man, Sharp, man, appreciate you having me, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate you for sliding through. What you sipping on, moonshine?
No, man, little H2O.
I'm just messing with you, man. Got to keep a little water around. I seen the mason jar. I said, man, what you over there sipping?
I love these mason jars, man. I grew up in the South, man, so I keep a couple of mason jars around me, man.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with it, man. I appreciate you for sliding through the no excuses, man, and sitting down doing this virtual joint with me. Talk to us, man. What's been going on, man? Let me ask you, because you seem like you kind of understand like people's emotions and how they why they may be moving in some of the directions they may be moving in. What do you think about what's going on in LA right now?
Well, when you think about what's going on, man, in LA, it's a lot of unrest. And it's a lot of unrest. And when you have unrest, you have frustration. Frustration that is unprocessed become uncontrollable, and it becomes displaced rage. And that's what we're seeing in LA. We're seeing people who probably at one point in time felt safe because the way they voted, and to see the way they voted is not playing out in their favor, and it's just a very it's a very unfavorable, outcome, that these people, they have loved ones, and then too, and particularly, man, for the black and brown population, this is pretty much what we have experienced so much throughout the political history, where you're promised one thing, but then, once they get in there, it's something completely different. So my heart goes out to those individuals in LA, man. When you're watching it, it reminds you so much of what the civil rights movement was, right? To see all of the riots and all those different things, man. So, yeah,
Man, I've been sitting back and I've been watching it, and I just been like, I don't. It seems like history repeats itself, right?
absolutely.
Always, and I feel like where there's pressure, it always has to have a release valve. It's got to release, or it's gonna find its
Absolutely.
way out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I just feel like, man, I think it's stupid. I feel like, there's a difference between protesting and peaceful protesting. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, when you see people throwing rocks, or, you see people, I never seen, even myself growing up, like, I never won against aggression with aggression. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? I never got my point across. I never, it never did anything good for me. You know what I mean? So I just
Right.
feel like
Right.
people need to kind of get back to the peaceful side of things, you know what I mean? And not just tearing shit up.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
Well, I agree. And I think when you have people who have such unrest, there is no logics to their thinking. There is no thought process in their behavior, because for them it is a reaction to an issue. It is a reaction to a bigger problem, and for them it is a bigger problem that you love what we provide for your country, but then you say on the other end of the spectrum that you don't want us here, right? And I mean, because let's be honest, not all of these immigrants are committing crimes.
Right,
So
right,
when
right.
so even, there are some law-abiding citizen and some people that have done their due diligence and that have lived a life where they have contributed to society, and to wake up one morning and your mom or your grandmother or your grandfather or your uncle or somebody is snatched out, man, again. And you're right. You could never have a productive outcome when violence is met with violence. But to your point, Sharp, when that pressure is on, it's got to have somewhere it's going to release. And I think that is what is happening, is the release is happening in real time.
Yeah. Tell us, Dr. J, because I see you deal with youth, you know what I'm saying? You actually sit down. I've seen a couple of clips. Actually, I watched a few of you actually sitting down with the youth. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and like what's that pertain to? Like, where'd that even come from? Your show,
Yeah.
because you got a
So
show.
Yeah, so my podcast is Just Heal, with Dr. J, and it's probably, I think we're probably about 7 or 8 episodes in. It's on the Black Effect and the iHeart Podcast network. But a lot of what my work started, man, I grew up in the South, and I had sort of two parts of my family dynamic. Where growing up in Mississippi, the son of a pastor, and kind of what we experienced as kids was much of where my love for young people came from, because my father had me working with teens in the church, but being a teenager is where I experienced the most pain. And for most of us, if we're honest, most adults, much of what we're trying to correct in our adult life are things that took place in our childhood. And I've worked as far as from working on the West Coast. Like, one of my first speaking engagement was in Inglewood, South Central. I got my start on the Bay Area, so I've been able to traverse the country and sit in different environments, whether it was gang culture or whether it was sitting amongst some Hispanic kids in Houston, Texas, or working with young people on the East Coast. What I've seen, man, is that much of what we're trying to rectify in our lives, man, is always some childhood trauma. And that's why I started with teenagers, and then it progressed to working with adults. And now solely, much of my work is done with young men. And me being a former pro athlete, having gotten there, having had the experience, but when it was over, it was my childhood wounds that returned and began showing up because I didn't have the football outlet, right? And again, everybody has their own vice. For me, it was football. I love to put a helmet on, and I love contact. I love the aggression. My father's side of the family is from LA. They're from Compton, so that side of the family was Crips. A part of their culture and environment was gang banging. So we had all of these different experiences, but we were all trying to outrun our childhood trauma.
Played for the Green Bay Packers, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah.
How many
Yeah,
years
I was a
you
free agent.
sit over there for?
I was a free agent, man. Got brought in for a cup of coffee, man. Got released. Got sent to the house and spent a couple of years, man, in the Arena Football League, and that was the end of it, man. Yeah.
How would you say, in what ways did football serve as a coping mechanism for you during, your adolescent years? How did that impact your identity?
For one, it served as a coping mechanism because I knew I can be aggressive without repercussions, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
so for an example, right? Like, let's take a young man who has the same aggression, but he's in the streets.
Yeah.
We all know how the street goes, right? That aggression is always going to be met with some aggression, right? And when you are in the streets, and to know that that aggression is going to be met with aggression, you're going to have a completely different outcome. I had the awareness that I wouldn't own that type of aggression. I wouldn't own the aggression to where I was homicidal. My aggression was internally because I desire the attention and the affection of my father. So therefore, this internal pain eventually imploded, which caused me to self-harm, which brought me to the place of being suicidal. Right. So I have, shared my story of surviving 2 suicide attempts. And if we're being honest, sharp, the reality of is like men who are angry or have anger issues, it's all from deep wounds of pain, of rejection and abandonment.
Right.
And so one or two things that happen, like when I'm talking to young men, I'm always telling them, oh, it's just even grown men. One or two things that's gonna happen with pain. It's either gonna make you homicidal or suicidal. You either hurt somebody or you're gonna hurt yourself. And football gave me that space to cope where, okay, I can go out here and bust somebody's head and we ain't gonna have no issue because that's the environment, that's the culture of the sport. You get to be violent, and I can leave it there on the field and then go to school and just be a regular person. So I was able to turn that switch off and on, and when it was over, I didn't have a place where I can be aggressive. And I think every man is always looking for a place where he can just be. And because we have testosterone, and because the way we are wired as males, going back to your point you just made, we look for places to have a release. And everybody has a different release valve. Some guys' release valve is drinking, some is sex, some is smoking, some is going fishing, some guys a video game. Everybody has a different release valve. And for me, it just happened to be the game of football. And after the game of football, it took a lot of years, man, of growing, developing, unpacking to realize that I had to find another outlet that would be healthy, that would be productive, and that would also allow me to evolve as a man.
I definitely want to go back and touch on the suicide situation. And because you were talking about like childhood, everybody when they bring something up from their childhood that impacts them as an adult later on. Do you feel like any of that, like the suicide attempts, had something to do with some of your upbringing and some of the things?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. So I started cutting on myself when I was 13. So my parents were going through a divorce, but they started having problems when I was like 9 or 10. And I was a very precocious kid. I was very aware. I was very intelligent. And to watch my father preach on Sunday, but then he wasn't home the rest of the week, that broke me. I was his only, I'm his son. So I'm not only watching him on Sunday, I'm also observing who he is Monday through Saturday. And the fact that I
Mm,
couldn't Yeah.
I only said I didn't mean to interrupt. It's just like
No, you good. Yeah.
to know like you're watching a whole different man on Sundays. You know what I'm saying? Monday through Saturday, no offense, could have been pure hell. You know
It
what I'm
was.
saying?
It was.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
and
That's what I was
so
like,
for me, Sharp, that was hard for me to differentiate on how do I make sense of who you are on Sunday, but then Monday through Saturday you're not home, and we know where you are because you were at, your mistress' house, and so that psychologically bothered me because I couldn't understand how could you give such insight and such
oh, you cutting out.
vibe.
You're cutting out a little bit, man. Can you say that for me again? I don't know if it seems a little
Yeah.
laggy on your side. Go ahead. Say it again.
Yeah, so I was saying like it was hard for me to comprehend how he could give all of these instructions, all of these words of encouragement and wisdom to the families and to the other people in the church, but we didn't have that in our home. And so that broke me because anytime a son doesn't have the love of his father, he's a man that is he's going to be a man that's always going to be searching for himself.
I don't think
Because
people hear you when you said that. That's deep. For real.
yeah,
Damn.
because who we become as men is always attached to who we watch and observe as boys. Um, and I had the opportunity, man. I've worked with every type of man in the clinical, in the therapeutic space that anybody. I mean, there's not any man that I haven't worked with that hasn't experienced life at such a very traumatic level, whether it was a man being molested or man being beaten, a man having to deal with emotional abuse, verbal abuse. I've worked with every type of man. And what I have seen across the board is that when we don't have the love of a father, we struggle to understand who we are as sons. And when we don't know who we are as sons, we now become a wanderer in our discovery to what is manhood. So there's so many different definitions because let's be honest, in the black and brown community, there is no rites of passage. For many of us, the rites of passage was the first time that you know what I'm saying, you had sex. It was probably the first blunt you smoked. It was probably the first drink you took. For some dudes, it was probably the first body you caught.
Right.
So there is so many different uh, definition for manhood, and they're all attached to your environment. And that was hard for me, man. And so not having him, but having him is what really drove me to want to take my
Well,
life because I'm like,
you felt like he was
yeah,
fake as fuck. Be honest. You
oh
felt
yeah,
like that.
absolutely, oh
That's
absolutely,
if we're gonna sum it
absolutely,
up in layman's terms, just for some
absolutely,
people, like you felt like here's this man that's my father, goes in
yeah,
here on Sunday, preaches the holy, thou shalt
yeah,
not this that, and as soon as man service is over, all right, y'all go back to the house. Y'all know where I'm headed.
yeah,
Like,
exactly,
and I feel like, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but I feel like even with the cutting, you just wanted your dad to come home. You thought that maybe if he heard that, that was gonna be a wake up call for him to
yeah,
be like, damn, I need to go get my hands on my son.
son, yes,
And
that's exactly spot on,
and when it probably didn't, I'm just trying to make sure I'm following you. And when it didn't,
absolutely,
you start trying to find other coping mechanisms because you really didn't want to cut yourself. You didn't really want to hurt yourself, but you felt like, well, damn, is this the only way I'm going to get some attention? And it probably hurt your heart even more to see, like, damn, this thing don't even care if I'm cutting myself. Like, he's probably
yeah,
turning the other cheek. He's acting like he's concerned, but shit, you only concerned on Sundays. So, I mean, that's the only day I'm going to get the truth out of you anyway.
that's it, brother.
That's
It's a cry for help, man. And the reality of it, Sharp, is I've talked to so many men that have had those thoughts, that have had either the thoughts of taking their life, the thoughts of taking their perpetrator, their abuser, their father, stepfather. There's so many men that have struggled with that, and I think you using your platform, I'm using my platform. We don't all have to be from the same neighborhood,
Nah,
but we all have the same understanding that we all, at one point, at a time in our life, desire to be seen for who we were.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
that's what every man that I've talked to, that I've worked with, man, they just want to be seen and want to be heard, and just want to know that they are valued for who they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And not for their ability to protect and provide. Though we know those are the measurables that we all fall under as a man. But if I'm unable to do these things, and not because I can't or I'm incapable, but maybe there's something that has happened in my life that has caused a mental block that doesn't allow me to fully be all that I can be. And this is why I love the space that we're in now, where men are talking and men are expressing and men are sharing their experiences. So, man, I think that for me, man, has been the most humbling part of my journey, to talk to brothers like you and to talk to brothers from all walks of life, and for us to have that opportunity, because I didn't grow up with men who talk. I had 7 uncles. You know, I had a cousin who was second in command in Crips, and I got to sit and talk to him before he was killed. But it wasn't common for men to just share how they were feeling. It was like, you don't feel. In fact, if you do feel,
you
we
looked as
all know
weak.
you weak. I mean, and we all know this, you know what I'm saying? Street code, like, nigga, you can't feel, because the moment that you start feeling, that's your ass. You know what I mean?
For real.
So it's the programming. And
So you're pushing, it sounds like to me, you're pushing emotional balance. And what I mean by
absolutely,
emotional balance is you're just
that's
saying,
it.
hey, women are feeling, it's okay for them to be emotional. We're still all human beings. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, it shouldn't be a double standard. It should be, hey, man, emotional equality. You know what I'm saying? So I
Absolutely.
understand that 100% what you're pushing for.
Absolutely, because I'm gonna tell you where you see it at mostly, right? When you understand the difference between a thug and a gangster, you get to see emotional intelligence versus uncontrolled emotional
Yeah,
output.
yeah,
Because that gangster is not just thinking for the moment; he's thinking after the moment. He's thinking as a chess player. So when you're thinking beyond the moment, that requires a level of emotional intellect, because I'm not just thinking about how I want to do something. I'm also thinking about the response that that may cause. And when you really break it down on that level, you get an understanding that we have a generation right now, like you hear a lot of the OGs say, man, there are no rules anymore with these young cats. There are no rules.
no, there's no rules. The honor amongst thieves era is gone.
It's gone.
That's gone.
It's gone.
It's get down
And
on me before you get down. Let me get down on you before you get down on me. Let me tell on you before you tell on me.
that's exactly what it is.
I
And
absolutely
so
agree.
and that's why the emotional, as you stated, the emotional quality, emotional balance is important, because I can understand. And I was just in Canada speaking to some young cats, and I was telling them, I said, man, I can understand that you can feel disrespected, but also understand. I said, here's the slippery slope, because when I was playing ball, the first thing your thought was, I can't let this nigga know I'm a bitch nigga, or to be seen as one. So I gotta get down on you, as you said, before you get down on me. But the reality of it is that your ability to say, you know what, I don't like that, but I gotta maintain who I am, because I don't know if I can deal with the outcome. And here's what happens is, you see this all the time on First 48. We have a bunch of uncontrolled, emotional young guys who, in the moment you feel the rage, you pull the trigger, You know what I'm saying? You jump down on it. But once the emotion has left, because emotions are meant to move through your body, they're not meant to stay. So once you develop the capacity to say, you know what, I can feel this anger, but I can't be controlled by it.
Well,
And what you see with these,
isn't that emotion? Don't mean to interrupt, but emotion is E. E is energy. Takes motion. Takes energy and motion to put
that's it.
emotion together. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I agree.
Exactly.
I agree.
And so once you feel that, man, it's like, okay, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And what happened is once they have reacted to what they feel, and once the emotion has left, the reality is like, oh shit, they about to sit me down for 25.
I think that's how old boy felt that just shot them people on the strip. After all the emotion and adrenaline leaves, it's like now you're sitting there in your thoughts. It starts to settle in. The reality starts to settle in once the emotion leaves.
That's exactly what it is,
I
bro.
agree. Damn.
That's exactly what it is, man. And so that's what I try to push with my message sharp, and when I'm speaking to men, when I'm speaking to young men, and it's not, and when I tell them, this is not to dismiss what you're feeling, and this is not to dismiss that your feeling is valid, but you also have to check the validity of it and the accuracy of it, because it's like when I hear a guy say, when I used to work with young guys in the group home, the first thing they would say, well, he disrespected me. And what I would ask them, well, what does that mean to you? Well, he disrespected me. I said, I hear you, but what does that mean? And when you got down to the core of it, what disrespect really was to them is he made me feel less than. So what I started doing was I started giving them the language to what they were feeling. And once you have the language, you now have the ability to connect and to communicate inwardly and then connect to it outwardly. Because, okay, did he make you feel less than, or you felt less than because you don't have what he have? Or he stepped on your shoe, because I grew up in the South, man, and like dudes was getting shot all the time for like stepping on somebody's shoe or this and that. And it's like, well, the guy said, excuse me. Well, what was it about it that you felt that the guy bumped you on purpose? Well, I felt like he was just trying to, like, again, is everything feel like, and you know this, Sharp, when like feelings can be real, but are they really valid? Is there any facts to it? Okay, he stepped on your
When
shoe.
you're
You
angry,
felt
there
like it.
is. There's 100 reasons
Exactly.
when you're upset. You can find a
Exactly.
hundred reasons, but when that shit leaves, every single one of them reasons sound dumb as fuck. After
They
them
sound down.
emotionally, it sounds ignorant. I
And
think
so
we
I
even
had
know
these
it even when
kids.
we're
Yeah.
angry. We even know it
Yeah.
when we're kind of angry. Like, I sound stupid, but I'm mad right now. I don't care.
Exactly.
You know.
And what I had to get these young people, man, to the place of feeling the anger, but not allowing the anger to have control. And for me, that's what football really gave me, is that sense of control and discipline, and gave me that balance to where you got to have this aggression to run up and hit this man, but you also got to understand that when this whistle is blown, you stop. So there was borders around when you could and when you couldn't, but that created this level of discipline, but also created a level of response to where, okay, I have to understand where I'm at, what I'm feeling, but then also I have to understand what is the outcome that I'm looking for.
That's, I gotta dive into your mind because I believe you had a suicide attempt at 31.
Yeah.
Now mind you, before we dive in, I'm gonna say it now. I don't got the balls to try to take my own life. It takes a hell of a like. I don't got it, bro. I ain't that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
I couldn't even. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people act like they tough and they hard about it, bro. I don't got the balls to do that, bro. I got the
Yeah.
balls to do a lot of shit. That's not one of them. I just want to know, like, what was on your mind that day? Like, what was going on? Because 31's kind of, it's a little later in the game. It's
Right.
you're in fourth quarter at this point.
So at that time, man, I was actually on the phone with my father early that day and having a conversation with him. Football had been over about 5 years, and as most guys, man, you're still trying to figure out your life. And that's the part about being an athlete, man. You've done this one thing all your the next phase of life can be very challenging. But as I'm talking to him and having this discussion with him, he and my mother at the time, and he said something to the magnitude of, "Here we go again with this depression stuff." And I was trying to open up and to kind of share with him what I was feeling and what I was going through and what I was processing, and just was processing like, man, I'm just trying to like, again, I don't have the guidance, I don't have the blueprint, I don't have the formula. So the only understanding that I have of being a man is just knowing how to work. But I didn't have an understanding of what does purpose look like in your work, or how do you work to find your purpose or your reason to live.
Mm.
And when he said, "Here we go again," it just triggered me. Because in that moment I felt unseen.
You
I
felt like a
felt
little kid again.
Exactly. And so the kid in me all over felt abandoned and overlooked, because this is also your pattern of when you don't want to deal something, you deflect. And I love my father to the moon and back, but he is one of the biggest deflective I've ever seen. And so in that moment, man, I just got to the point and I was just like, you know what? The only pain that you would be able to respond to is my death. And that was my thought process. Because I no longer wanted to feel this pain of, okay, trying to talk to you, trying to be a son, trying to connect, trying to reach out, trying to bond with you, trying to be open about something that I've been closed about. And then I'm met not only with rejection, but I'm also met with a level, with a lack of understanding. And that just sent me, man, into a dark place. And I was just like, and I told him and my mother, I said, well, this would be the last time y'all would talk to me. And the only reason I share this, the only reason that I didn't shoot myself is because I was living with my godmother. And I was conscious enough that I did not want her to walk in and to see that type of scene. So I OD'd off of painkillers, hydrocodone, uh, all type of Celebrex, like, because I had a back injury from football, and so I just OD'd off a bunch of pills because I said to myself, well, I can at least go away quietly in her house, and she doesn't have this traumatic scene of blood and all of these type of things,
It
and
is. That shit's traumatic.
it's traumatic. And so that's how far gone I was. But even in my lowest moment, Sharp, this is something that I discovered, the type of man that I was. Even in my darkest moment, I still had a sense of compassion and consideration on how someone else's life would be from uh, my decision
People think
that
about
I,
that on their way out. I believe that.
yeah, yeah. And that's where I was, man. And I never forget that day. And you're right. Uh, well, to be in your early 30s, it should be a point in your life where you feel like, you know what, man, the light bulb has come on. I'm past 25. I kind of got uh, an understanding of where life may be going. I don't have a full understanding because I believe I came to a full understanding when I got into my 40s. But in your 30s, man, you're still kind of trying to figure it out. And so in that moment, man, I just needed my father to say, hey, what do you need from me, son? That's all I needed. Son, how can I be of help to you? That's all I wanted, man. And so that is the incident that happened, and that's what drove me to that.
Do you think that he didn't know how to be there for you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
as I know, as
Yeah.
cliche as that may sound or crazy, because he's there for these people every Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't. He can tell them a few words. They go home. You come
Yep.
home with him. So
Yep.
I feel like it might be a little it's a little different, and I feel like he was scared. He didn't know maybe how to love you because he
Yeah.
wasn't loved by his.
Absolutely, brother.
Hurt people, man. Even if it's a father to son, a mother to daughter, a mother to son, a father to daughter, doesn't matter. It
Absolutely.
hurt people, man. You know, and it
Yeah.
don't necessarily got to be a slap on the mouth.
Nope. Nope.
It never has to.
You
It don't have to just be physical, man.
nope. You teaching, brother. Like you teaching, man. That's good teaching.
You a
And
good dude, man.
and I came to the realization because of course going to therapy and of course my journey has been 10 plus years, and I started doing a deeper dive into his childhood, and it was my aunt who gave me the backstory to how he was treated by my grandfather. And the part that really bothers me at times, and of course I'm beyond that now, but my grandfather treated my father so bad that of course he did the same with me. But it's also that generation don't like to really be honest with themselves about who their parents really were, because they feel like in those times, well, our parents were doing the best they could, and which is true and valid. However, my father won't acknowledge the pain that he had to suffer for the sake of, well, daddy was a good dad. Daddy, that's just the way he was. And that's the type of stuff that I would hear him say. And I said, well, Pop, that ain't, and of course now we have a better relationship. And then too, that's also when you become evolve within yourself as a man, you're able to have a clear understanding as to what you just said. I don't set an expectation for him to give me something that he wasn't given. So I don't have an expectation for him to embrace me in ways that he would never embrace. But that takes a lot of growth, because we all want to, again, be seen, to be heard, and to be appreciated. But my healing and my growth has allowed me to have more grace for my father. And then it also allows me to have grace for so many other men that come from so many different places that maybe I didn't come from. But I have an understanding, like, man, if you were raised around people where love was absent, I can't have an expectation for you to say I love you back if I say I love you. And though you are a person that respect me and have love for me, but that's not normal for you to say it.
Did you ever tell him you
And when
love him?
you,
Did you ever tell him you love him?
yeah, yeah,
Did he tell you?
yeah, yeah, he finally, like, and even now, man, it's crazy, bro, because like he has a difficult time saying it. And he's been able to kind of see my growth and journey, because it's like I talk a lot about the duality of manhood as being a lion and a lamb, right?
He kind of hates
Like,
that. I'm not gonna lie. As a father, I'm sure he's like, this
yeah.
man went and built an entire, just you have a whole different, just with the self healing, and I'm sure it bothers him to know that he's a big piece of why you're doing what you're doing.
And I think you're right, brother. And you are probably the umpteenth person that have said that. And which is why, man, like, he just had an anniversary for his church and his pastor. And bro, I sent him offering. I always would drop him something, man. And even that is difficult for him, because to your point, it's like, man, my son is not only changing lives, but my son has made a great living. And
Yeah, a
he's
great living.
giving back to me in a way that I was never able to give back to him.
What
And
a
then,
mind fuck. What a
yes,
mind fuck. I was trying to say it like, damn, what a mind fuck. Like, he's giving me back the money. I don't want to say it's you selling your story, but like people take a liking to, your background and to your story. It's what's helped you, be able to help
yeah,
other people with therapy and just things like that. And he thinks, he's like, damn. I have to say, because when you do think back in the day, and like probably his father, his mother, like you didn't show too much emotion to your kid because
Oh,
you wanted them to be strong. It used to
yep,
build a stronger character of a person where they could be more independent. You look
right,
at some of
yep,
these kids today; they're still living at home at 27. But
yep,
I can say I wouldn't say get rid of the old way, but just understand that it's not for every kid. And once they
yeah,
see that, like some kids do need that shit. You see, once you start giving some of these kids tough love, they start getting it together. Now their grades is good. Now you know what I'm
yep,
saying? There's some people, and then there's some kids that kind of need a little bit more passionate,
yep.
just calm, cool, collective love. You
No,
know?
I agree, Sharp. Like I agree, and that's what, man. My journey and sharing, because what I wanted, brother, is I wanted other men to get free, and so they can live healthier lives, and so we can live a life that's not full of anger, not full of
Yeah,
aggression, and all those different. Because, man, I grew up around that, man. Like,
yeah,
like I grew up, like I said, my dad has 7 brothers, and so part of my dad family was in LA, and then the other part was in Mississippi. So I got to see so many different types of men, and I never saw men smile in my family. You know what I mean? So I never saw men really enjoy life. And part of my journey was to not only just free myself, but free the little boy in me, but also to share that with other men, because we could still be masculine. You could still be, you know what I'm saying, that lion and all of those different things, but also to understand that as that lion, you could still be compassionate, comprehensible. You could still be loving, caring. And that did not have to mean that you have to take off of your Superman cape. Matter of fact, you can keep your cape on, and being able to be all of these other things with your cape on makes you a whole man. And I think in those days it was all stoic, and you got to be all dog. And I'm all for that, and I live that, you know what I mean, as an athlete. But I've been able to find more peace in this season of my life, or in just this stage of my life, where I'm not holding on to what daddy did or what he didn't do, what he said, because I've been able to find myself. And that's just kind of what my message has been centered around, man.
How does how does the pressure to perform and succeed in sports influence the mental health of professional athletes, and what can be done to alleviate this burden?
I don't think that the burden can be alleviated completely. I do think that it can be managed. And I think also understanding that how you perform is attached to how you see yourself, what you believe about yourself. And then also, what are the things that you're receiving from you? And when you're thinking about performing, as I tell guys often, man, is there has to be a separation for who you are on the field, on the court, on the diamond, or whatever you do. And then there has to be a separation for who you are in real time, in reality, away from what you do. And I think the pressure of social media, because again, everybody's watching all of our moves. We feel pressured to post. We feel pressured to be better. We feel like, I'm not sure your age, but we grew up in the '80s. Like, you didn't know what so and so was doing over in the shy or
Well,
in
you
other
never let your
areas.
left pocket know what your right pocket was doing
Ex-
ever. So
ex-
nobody ever really knew anything about anybody unless they
exactly.
showed you something.
Exactly.
Understandable.
And
Understandable.
that is the wisdom that we're missing in today's time, to where I think what is messing with these athletes is they feel pressure to be on all the time. So when you got to be on, you're exhausted from when you should be off, you're on. And so I think the way to alleviate it, or to in some way manage it, is really helping these guys develop their own system that works for them.
Yeah.
Like, when you're in the off season, check out. Like, get off the gram. Don't post. Go on your trips. Go hang out with your girl. Go hang out with your kids. Go hang out with your family. Go do what you do and disconnect. I think we're too connected. We were never meant to be fully engaged, connected to a device 24/7.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really, really diminishing the mental aspect of these guys, because it's like, dang, this dude over here, you know what I'm saying? He in the gym 2 or 3 times, and you in the gym one time, rather than saying, hey, We're on two different programs, man.
When you talk about disconnect, and then we've talked about suicide and things like that, I think this is a perfect question for you. What did you think about the Aaron Hernandez situation? Like, and what like impacted him? Because that was bizarre, and I feel like a lot of the stuff you've been talking about, that guy was probably one of the prime examples of what people can really go through.
Yeah. I think Aaron, I don't know him personally, but
Head
just kind of
scratcher though,
like from the things.
huh?
Uh,
It's a head scratcher.
I
It's
don't
like, damn.
yeah, I don't know him personally, from a therapeutic lens, the trauma that was compounded from his childhood created a monster. And when the monster is created, one or two things is going to happen. You either keep feeding it and it grows, or you stop feeding it and it dies. And I think from just and I'm only giving this view based off of the documentaries and different things like that. And I think he found a way to feed it in small increments. And when this monster is being fed, there's an appetite. Once there has been an appetite, once an appetite has been developed, there's also now a frequency in which you have to feed it. And if there's any time where this thing feels like it's not being fed, it's going to become untamed. I mean, and you see that in just not just Aaron, but in so many cases when we create personas and we create different parts of ourselves. And if that thing gets out of control, man, it'll take control. And I think eventually what happened is that the monster took control. And by the time it was in full control, it was too far gone for even Aaron himself to pull it back in. So now you're doing things, man, that is so far from what you had in mind that you can't come back. Like I watched, when I was in grad school, man, I used to watch a lot of docs on because I had a relative who was a hitman, and I used to watch a lot of different docs on hitmen, and because I wanted to understand the psyche of it, wasn't judging, but again, that was part of my work
It was the
was to
only way you
study the
could tap
mind.
in was to study
It's
the mind.
the only way that you can tap in. When you got to the core of it, something happened in the top childhood, and immediately they turned off their emotions and their feelings. And I sit, and again, I had a relative. He's no longer here, who was a hitman, and I sat and talked with him one night. He lived in L.A., and I never forget he shared this story with me that he took out this whole family. And I asked him, I said, "What was that like?" And he said, "You get to a place where your brain doesn't process anything. It's just a machine that you have built to do what it is that you do." And he literally said he would just put the pillow over, and he was like, there wasn't a process. And I think when you get to that place and to understand how a psychopath and how a serial killer, all those different things, is all rooted, man, in childhood experiences, that either there's so much trauma that you now begin to embody what the trauma has done to you. So you think about most of these people were beaten as kids. They were abandoned. They were neglected. They were rejected. So all they did was become the rejected. All
Even
they did
even
was
with
just,
I guess they just become the rejected with a $50 million bag. I
that's
guess
it
the
right
money
there.
doesn't really even. It never
Exactly.
changes that.
Exactly.
You're
So
helping
because
enhance the problem with the
exactly
money.
because that's it. Because when you even watch the Iceman documentary, right? Sometimes it wasn't even about the money. It was for him. It was about the planning for him. The money was just a byproduct. Because I was watching the documentary. If he couldn't plan it correctly, the money didn't even matter to him. And I think I remember him saying one time, he said, it wasn't about the money. He said, I don't know if I can get out of this clean. So now there's such thought that goes into what they do, because again, they're thinkers as much as we think that they're not. But man, it was just interesting, man, just to get into the minds of just different individuals, and I think that's just what happened to Aaron, man, and so far gone, and then the voices start. Probably when he was incarcerated, and he realized again, going back to what he was talking about earlier, when we have these emotional response, and when the reality sit in, and it's like, damn, I ain't going home. I can't get out of this. They can't that I can't buy my way out of this. I got the money, but by the time these lawyers get through running through all of my bags, you know what I mean? I'll be 10 years in and I'm not sure how it happened, but he probably got to a place where he's like, man, I don't want to do this.
That, and also, I believe, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe why he did what he did to himself, because he was trying to make sure that his baby mom and his daughter still got the bag. You know what I'm saying? Because they were about to get ready to snatch all that back from him. So he figured, before y'all do, if I get knocked off, or if I'm gone unalived, you still have to honor that commitment. And it
Right.
sounds like even with him doing that, they still didn't honor the commitment. They took everything back from him regardless. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So he's still, even him putting his life on the line, he still lost. His family still gained nothing from the deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a real shitty situation.
Yeah,
I was just
man.
curious to see what you thought about that, because you played ball.
Yeah.
It seems like you've maybe not went all the way down the road that he's went, but shit, you were meddling around somewhere around in the ballpark. So I just wanted to see your
Yeah.
thought process
Yeah.
on that one. How can society better
Yeah.
support individuals who have survived suicide attempts and are seeking healing? How does how do you what do you think about that?
Man, we just got to be more kind to each other, man. And I know that sounds cliche, but we also got to be more human toward people. I think we treat each other, man, as if we are already in a world that has become AI creatures that are walking and talking. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is we don't treat people like human beings. And and because we're so overly connected and we're underly commune, is that there's no real connection. There's no real, I got friends, man, from all walks of life, and I tap in with everybody, man, at least every other week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, man. And it's not a how you doing, it's how you feeling, man. How's your heart? And I think we just got to see people more, man. And I think when people feel seen, people feel valued. And I think we have become so pretentious, because the world is very materialistic, and nothing wrong with those things, that we see things more than we see people. And that's dangerous, because I can see you dress well. I can see you got all of the things and all of the accoutrements, man, that makes you who you are. But there's something in me that should want to know, how are you as a person outside of how you dress and how you look. And I think too many times I've watched many men who look well, but they are not well, man. And people won't ask them, because people were like, well, he just got out of the Maserati, he just got out of the Rolls Royce, or he just got out of that, man. Like every brother I come across, man, I'm always like, man, how you doing, good brother? Because I care about brothers. I didn't have a brother growing up, so for me, I love to connect with brothers, just to tap in, because that's also part of what I experienced in the locker room. And whenever we leave the locker room, no matter what sports you play, there's a desire to always find community again, because I think there's something about being able to sharpen the sword of the next man by touching metal, meaning by having this conversation with you, is productive. It's a conversation of growth. It's a conversation of learning. It's a conversation that will evolve the both of us. And I don't think we do that enough as men. We get together and talk about sports and women and different things like that. But just sometimes, man, it's good just to talk to a brother, to be like, yo, man, how's your year going, man? Any plans, any things, any dreams, any vision, which is different. Because, you get to saying that around the wrong people, they be like, damn, nigga, what you on?
Most
You know what I
niggas
mean?
don't want to hear that.
Yeah, they
They
don't.
don't want to hear that.
And and a lot of times, Sharp, what I realize is those that don't want to hear it is because they never knew that they needed it. Because when you start talking to them, I just left Nova Scotia, Canada, and
How was
same
it?
thing. It's like streets, drugs, beautiful place, but it's some of the same things, issues that we are facing here in America. And so uh to hear these men just say, "Hey, bro, man, we appreciate you coming just to talk to us, man," because oftentimes we don't have a man who comes back to the neighborhood or comes back to the community to talk to us. So it's and they didn't, and the way I showed up, I went and talked to some guys in prison. Like the way I showed up for them, man, they was like, "Man, thank you," because it wasn't a conversation or a talk of looking down. It was a talk of hope, and not because I'm selling something, but what I'm encouraging is that you still have a choice, and whatever that is. And a lot of times we won't hear that from another man. It's usually a man in a suit and tie, and that's what niggas don't want to hear. But when you come with somebody like myself or like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
that they can relate to, they're gonna be like, "Okay, I'm gonna listen to you, OG. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna listen to," because then I don't come with a shield or a sword.
Well, when you can relate, you can respect. It's an R and R.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? When you
Ex-
can
ex-
relate, that means you respect.
Exactly, bro. And so and that's what I've started off early. I've been able to walk into so many different places and grab men. I'm talking about men, hundreds of them. And that's the first thing they say, "Man, Dr. J, man, you always," because again, playing ball, I even if we were cracking each other's head and we was battling for each other's position, I always respected that man, no matter what. Because the respect I give you says so much about me. And what I wanted you to know about me is that I value me, so therefore I value you. We're gonna go hard, we're gonna bang, we're gonna talk trash, but at the end of the day, my brother, it's all love,
It's
man.
all love.
Yes,
Where can
sir.
where can we because I know you say you just got started up with your podcast and start getting that
Yeah,
going.
yeah, man.
It seems like it's doing good though.
Yeah, man, it's growing, bro. It's growing. I appreciate you, man. It's growing. But
Keep
yeah, you
going.
can find yes, sir. The Just Heal with Dr. J. We have a YouTube channel, Just Heal Dr. J. But a new episode drop every Tuesday. You can listen on iHeart Podcast. Mind going Blake is late over here. The Black Effect Network and iHeart Podcasts or Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
One one last final thought before you get out of here. What would you leave with the people?
Man, first of all, I want to say thank you, brother. I've had a chance to watch a lot of your shows, brother.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, brother, I admire and respect your growth, man. Uh, and just what you're doing with your platform, bringing different voices, bringing different personalities, different people from the walk, from various walks of life, man. So I want to say, brother, thank you, and it's been an honor to watch, your work from 22 Jump. I think that was a podcast that I saw you on years ago, but just to see where you're at now, man. So just wanted to acknowledge that. But
Thank you.
man, what I want to say to everybody that's watching, man, give yourself permission to grow. I think we often don't realize that we think that we're going to grow by happenstance. And it's not osmosis, meaning that it's not something that just happened automatically. We have to give yourself permission to grow. And when you give yourself permission to grow, you're giving yourself permission to blossom into the best version of yourself, man. And so that's the last word that I would leave.
Well, I appreciate you, and hopefully in the future, me and you can catch up, and we can
Oh, yeah,
actually have a
absolutely,
sit
brother.
down, some dinner, something,
Let's do it, brother.
We gonna definitely stay in touch, and I appreciate you for everything, man, and just
Yes,
keep
sir.
going, man.
Yes, sir.
I like that. Self love is a must. Keep
Yes,
going,
sir,
man.
man.
Don't
Yes,
don't
sir, brother.
stop, brother. I'm here for you for whatever you need, man. I'm always just a phone call away, Dr. J.
Man, I appreciate you, Sharp. I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you, brother. I know you got a flight to catch at 6 in the morning, so I don't want to hold you up too much longer. But
All
like
right,
I
man.
said, much love to you, church, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right, brother.
All right, church.
Peace.
One. one was different. I should say so myself. That one was that was different, man, to hear that. This has been another episode. No excuses, where no excuse is the best excuse. We're gonna take us a 10-minute intermission. And I'll be back with the late night show here in about 20 minutes. So make sure you chime in, tune in. I appreciate Dr. J for coming and sliding, man. And, just giving us some insight. Sometimes we need that. I know y'all always want to hear the ghetto ratchet shit, and it's cool. I like kicking it for you too, but sometimes we need something that's informative. You know what I'm saying? It's something that, because there's some people out there that really needed to hear that. And I know some people probably was like, I don't want to hear that shit today. Well, you know what? You're going to. And you have to. And hopefully you take it, you know what I'm saying? You don't take it just as a grain of salt. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Like I said, we'll be back in about the next 20 minutes to, get the chicken and jive. And I know how you want to see me, eating chicken and dancing. I get it. We will get there. But, this one right here was a great interview. I appreciate everybody that chimed in. Like, comment, subscribe. Go follow my partner, man, Dr. J Barnett, man. He's a great guy. And like I say, he's working with the youth to adults. So go check him out, man. He's on all platforms. And I will see y'all soon, church.